5 brave Intel employees from Finland being shut out like human cannibals in order to recreate the Intel chime, one of the most iconic sound logos in the world. According to Walter Wotzowa, the creator of the sound, that sound needed to convey reliability, innovation, and trust. It most probably helped with Intel's dominating position in the CPU market, at least in the last decade. However, a company that has been innovating and leading the way through Moore's law seems to be losing ground, and this loss could be irreversible. Can Pat Gelsinger, who became the CEO of Intel on February 15, 2021, save Intel from failing? Intel processors versus ARM processors. In the past, we had the impression that Intel processors with x86 architecture were more suitable for heavy-duty technologies such as desktop computers, gaming machines, and data center servers, while ARM-based technology is often found in mobile devices. Intel processors were seen superior because they were much faster and often came with premium price tags too. This is quickly changing. Currently, ARM-based CPUs are taking over the market. To understand why ARM-based CPUs are eating Intel's lunch, we have to quickly talk about the difference between the two architectures in simple terms. Basically, x86 chips or Intel's chips have to operate under complex programs, while ARM-based chips follow simpler instructions. x86 was developed for speed but not efficiency, while ARM was designed to be efficient without a cooling need. This is why ARM-based chips have been widely used in mobile devices without cooling fans. Intel's strategy has always been completely owning their own technology, vertically integrating everything from designing to manufacturing their own chips. It's worth noting that Intel is the only major semiconductor company adopting this strategy. This traditionally gave Intel a lot of power and was a huge contributor to high price and profit margin, dominating the ecosystem in the past. On the other hand, ARM doesn't really have their own semiconductors and they don't sell semiconductors. ARM simply licenses out their architecture to other semiconductor companies. While ARM is not open source, it is based on an open architecture, meaning each chip maker can customize the software design to best optimize their hardware performance. In the most recent GTC 2021, the GPU Technology Conference, NVIDIA CEO Jensen Huang mentioned how the GPUs have been traditionally starved off from computing resources running on the inflexible x86 architecture, meaning the CPU hasn't been feeding enough power to the GPUs, which of course impacted the GPU's performance. As you know, GPUs are the bread and butter of NVIDIA, so in order to achieve maximum computing performance, NVIDIA decided to adopt ARM-based architecture and design their own CPU under the name Project Grace. NVIDIA envisions that ARM-based architecture will be widely adopted in data centers and in the cloud, running all kinds of AI workflows and on IoT devices. Okay, now we know why NVIDIA wanted to buy ARM from SoftBank for $40 billion. I know you're thinking, I thought you said that Intel CPUs are faster, so they're better for servers and data centers. Well, things are changing. Intel's technology is stuck in time for now. First of all, you may have heard of 7, 5, and 3 nanometers, but it is important to know that these numbers are just for marketing. Basically, they have nothing to do with the actual physical features of the transistors. These numbers are just used by the industry to refer to newer and faster processors with increased transistor density and speed but reduced power consumption. Intel is currently stuck with their 40 nanometer technology because their 10 nanometer could not run as fast as they wanted. Intel has been trying for years to get past this problem. Now they decided to go directly to producing their 7 nanometer chips. Intel's new CEO promised that they will be shipping the 7nm chips in 2023 after it's been delayed again. The 7nm chip is roughly the same as TSMC's 5nm technology, and the rumor says Intel's 7nm chips will be better than TSMC's 5nm. But the problem is, TSMC is shipping 5nm now, whereas Intel has to wait and see until 2023. Other companies, the most notable one being Apple, can't just sit there and wait for Intel. So Apple decided to design their own chip called M1 and asked TSMC to produce the 5nm chips for them. We mentioned in the previous videos that TSMC is now the world's largest semiconductor foundry and have spent decades in streamlining their production process, so it is difficult to beat TSMC in terms of scale and efficiency in semiconductor production. TSMC currently holds at least 50 to 60% market share worldwide of the semiconductor manufacturing business. All the well-known semiconductor companies such as NVIDIA and AMD are fabless, meaning they only design their own chips and they ask TSMC to manufacture. Because Intel has been stuck for years, Apple, NVIDIA, and AMD all decided to adopt ARM-based architecture in their design and went to TSMC for production. These companies can update the flexible ARM-based design to optimize their own hardware performance, so currently computers and servers, game machines, and all the other machines using ARM-based 5nm TSMC chips are running faster and outselling Intel-based machines, which is reflected in the stock price of these companies. In January 2021, AMD's market share for desktop CPUs overtook Intel's at 50.8%. Can Intel come back to the game? By now, you probably realize that ARM isn't really the Intel competitor here. TSMC is. According to Fool.com, TSMC started mass-producing 5nm chips last year, and it plans to mass-produce 3nm chips in 2022. The good news for Intel is, given the strategic importance semiconductors play in the technology war between US and China, the Biden administration has pledged $50 billion to reclaim US leadership in the semiconductor technology, as well as building up the manufacturing and supply chain in the US, and Intel stands to benefit from this pledge. Taiwan is important, but too close to China, which makes it a huge risk for the US to rely on the chip manufacturing being done in Taiwan. And it looks like Intel is seeking European governments' investments too. Intel announced in late March a plan to invest $20 billion to build 2 new factories to increase production in the US. TSMC also plans to invest $100 billion over 3 years to boost capacity. Can Intel still innovate, and will their strategy of vertically integrating everything pay off? Everyone loves a good comeback story, but in the next 3 years, we're likely to see Intel suffer at least until 2023, when they can meet their target in shipping the 7nm chips. What's your opinion on that? Leave me a comment and let me know.